But first tonight, team coverage. Justice for 20-year-old Kaylin Gillis' family with Kevin Monahan found guilty on all charges.
It took the jury just about 2 hours to arrive at that verdict in this murder trial. Monahan fired 2 shots in April of 2023. One struck Gillis in the neck after she and her friends had driven up his driveway by mistake. We start with CBS 6's Ashley Kusakonki, who has been in the courtroom every day of the trial.
Just before closing arguments began, the jury was asked to consider lesser charges, but they found Kevin Monahan guilty on the original charges: murder in the second degree, reckless endangerment in the first degree, and tampering with physical evidence. Before they came to that verdict, a note was brought into the courtroom. That note read if the jury would be able to be reread back a part of Monahan's wife Jinx's testimony on what the gun is used for. Now, Jinx said, quote, to shoot woodchuck and gray squirrel, nuisance vehicle, and nuisance animal.
How does the jury find the defendant, Kevin Monahan, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
66-year-old Kevin Monahan will remain in custody following his sentence of guilty on charges of murder, reckless endangerment, and tampering with physical evidence. Last April, 20-year-old Kaylin Gillis and friends were on their way to a party and drove up Monahan's driveway by mistake. Monahan fired 2 shots, one striking Gillis. He has been in jail since the night of the shooting.
You know he didn't shoot her on purpose.
Lead defense counsel Arthur Frost addressed the jury for around 45 minutes, while Assistant District Attorney Christopher Morris took nearly 2.5 hours before they reached their verdict, a verdict that only took 2 hours to decide.
Guilty.
Monahan says the second shot that killed Gillis, his gun went off on its own after tripping on nails sticking up from his porch and falling into the railing with his gun going off on impact.
There was no rubber up on the deck on Mr. Monahan's deck on April 15th.
Drop tests were conducted by New York State Police investigators. Frost says they are inaccurate.
If I drop an egg onto a pillow, there's going to be a decidedly different result.
Frost also claims the witness testimony was changed to fit the prosecution narrative.
You heard some proof about the alcohol and marijuana. Maybe their recollection of events isn't as clear as it might ordinarily have been.
Morris says the nail does not exist, with no markings found on his flip-flops, and Monahan murdered Gillis.
Kevin Monahan pulled the trigger of his 20-gauge shotgun twice. It did not go off on its own. The teens were lost. They were not high. They were not drunk. They were not rowdy partiers. They were not arrogant and disrespectful. When they didn't recognize the house, they stopped.
Morris says the testimony between Kevin and Jinx Monahan was conflicting, along with other facts from the defense, like Monahan claiming his wrist was hurt badly decades ago, not allowing him to properly hold the gun to make sure the trigger doesn't go off accidentally.
You got to compare this to what he does for a living. He's a contractor. He said he worked all day. He does framing, sheetrocking, electrical, has air compression tools.
Again, Monahan found guilty on second-degree murder, reckless endangerment in the first degree, and tampering with physical evidence. Sentencing is set for March 1st. Reporting in Fort Edward, Ashley Kusakonki, CBS 6 News.